Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special inebriated edition of Monster Party.
Monster Party. Monster Party, Monster Party. Everyone, everyone. I got another. Get beer. Another Monster Party. Okay,
That's a good one.
All right.
Okay. We all had
that's
fun.
Pretty good.
That's our show.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Hey, guess what?
What's that?
I'm Matt Weinhold.
I'm SHAWN Sheridan.
I'm Larry STROTHE.
And I'm James GONIS.
Wow.
Way to go there, buddy. Way to be right on it.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, we're all on it, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
We're on
it's
something.
Almost like we're on something. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect segue for the topic for this show. Now, in the past, we did an episode called Drugs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You heard me, kids. It's dangerous stuff.
Yes.
Don't get on the goofers. And
Yes.
we gave you this wonderful advice, and we gave you a tour down drug lane of horror and basically genre films. But for this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, but with another substance. And guess what that substance is? Booze.
Booze. Monster Party. Booze.
Alcohol. Yes. Otherwise known as pooch.
Spirits.
Liquid nitrogen. I don't know. I don't know all the
Liquid
words for
fun.
Liquid. Sure.
Libations,
I'll take
right.
that. I'll accept that.
Libations, yes.
But
Yeah.
we are, we are having some drinks tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we
This is
want
a look at this is booze in the world of horror and sci-fi and
Correct.
cinema and TV.
Yeah.
Yes, but I want to make sure if you're out there driving, just make sure to drive responsibly and drink responsibly.
Thanks, Mom.
And
Thanks,
make sure
Mad.
you have a designated driver.
Okay,
when you're,
sure. Right.
True.
that kind of thing. And and no one likes the drunken fool. We don't want to see you at the being filmed and end up on ridiculousness or something like that.
What is
we
going
don't want
on?
that. So
Okay, roll red asphalt and let's get this thing going.
But booze. But Matt,
Booze,
it's
yes.
booze. How
It's booze.
can we do? How can we do, Sean? How can we do a show
we
about
ask you.
booze?
Yes.
Irishman.
It's a subject near and dear to our heart, but we have to have the right person.
True.
Well, we have to have the perfect guest.
Yes.
And we are so fortunate to have the perfect guest.
All right.
Mhm.
Our guest holds the rare title of Master Cicerone, which is to beer what a master sommelier is to wine.
Wow.
And there are only 20 Master Cicerones in the world.
My
Oh
God.
my God.
Yes, our guest is 1 in 20 in the world. As
Holy
a former, as a former
And he's here?
He's here. He's with us.
How?
As a former head brewer, he's created a number of award-winning beers at the professional and homebrew levels.
Wow.
As a celebrated beer and food pairing expert, he's led over 800 events on the subject and contributed to a variety of publications, including Beer Advocate magazine. And he was featured in the 2018 documentary Brewmasters.
Oh,
Wow.
He is currently director of sales and marketing at Sly Fox Brewing Company in Pennsylvania.
Sly Fox.
And he is the co-host of the Halloween is Forever podcast,
Nice.
where he and his fellow mutant horror nerd co-hosts pick a topic and rip each other's guts out on the way to deciding whose favorite flicks reigns supreme.
My God. So he's a beer expert and a monster kid.
Wow.
I know. And as if all that weren't enough, last but not least, I'm proud to say he's a Monster Party listener.
Yes.
No.
I-
Kiss my hops.
Let's welcome to the show, Brian Reed.
Brian Reed!
Welcome.
Bring in some class. Bring in some class to Monster Party.
If you're looking for class, you are barking up the wrong tree, my friend.
One of 20.
You're one of 20.
Yeah. Now, Brian, I'm fascinated by this. I really want to know more specifically what a cicerone is and how you get to be one, especially a master out of 20 in the world.
Yeah, I mean, James hit the nail on the head. That's kind of the best way to describe, like the elevator speech. It's like a beer equivalent of a sommelier, but like the sommelier program, there's certain different levels. There's actually 4 levels to the program. I think at this point we're at last count somewhere in the range of like 130,000 people globally who have passed one of the 4 levels of the exam. Master Cicerone being the final level.
Wow,
I was number 14. We're now up to 20. And as you might imagine, the exams get harder and harder as you go up, and obviously encompass a pretty broad range of brewing and sensory training, and they just really for 2 days, about 16 to 20 hours over the course of 2 days, just put you in a room with between 10 and 20 other people and just grill you and try to make you regret your existence basically for a couple of days.
So is it like a combination then of like knowing history of it as well as tasting? And I mean, there is a little bit of a history component. For the most part, I would say like the 2 biggest things, there's an essay portion, which is really, really technically heavy. So everything from knowing the chemical pathways to how certain fermentation characters that translate into the sensory experience are created, all the way through, obviously a whole manner of ingredient assessment. And then of course there's a sensory portion of it. So, you're going to write, 80, 100 pages over the course of a couple of days in essays. You're going to sit through, 10 or 12 sensory panels with all different types of exercises, just kind of meant to just put a problematic amount of stress on you and take years off your life is essentially what they're trying to accomplish, I think. So yeah. But was it worth it though in the end?
No, certainly not. No, it was. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was. I was very fortunate that I had 2 good friends of mine who we kind of prepared for it together. We all worked together. We worked for Miller Coors at the time, and we kind of we were good buddies outside of work. We worked on the same team, and we could kind of push each other. And it was very fortunate. One of the 3 of us, not me, is one of the best tasters in the world. Legitimately, probably the best taster in the world. So being able to work with that, with him, and like I said, the other group that we had. You just kind of push each other. It's like any, sport or activity that you do when you're with people that are like way better at it than you. Right. You get better,
Right. You rise to the occasion.
Right. So it was a really kind of fun, crazy about 5 years preparing for the exam. And then ultimately, it took me 3 tries. So I failed it twice. And then finally got it on the 3rd try. So, which I think was my last chance because my wife was very close to smothering me in my sleep, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, I have a question. I have a question about beer. Okay. Now, my dad, he's one of those guys like from the Depression, and it's like, hey, beer's beer.
Sure.
And wine is wine. And he was the guy who would buy the jug Chablis, One of those guys,
He liked his wine to be in a bag and for that bag to be in a box.
Right. Yeah. We're talking pre-box now. It was like,
this is true.
Right. I think it came in a basket. But the cheapest he could get, if he could get something that was like a tablet that you put in water and it made wine, then that would be for him.
Sure.
But so his beer, get this. And this is part of my question, which is, so his beer of choice was, I think the cheapest one at the time was Lucky Lager.
Oh, yeah.
Lucky Lager. And the fun of Lucky Lager, at least for me, was, he'd be done with his little beer time. And then the cap would have the little puzzle, the concentration-esque puzzle in the beginning. So it's like a bunch of pictures that formed, and you have to work out what the phrase was. the pictures represented, and this was in the cap.
Yeah.
Wait, you got not only a beer but a puzzle?
A puzzle, yeah. But they had to do something, Larry.
It was like the Snapple of beers. Yeah, like it had a little funny quip under the label.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I just need to know, like, was that like the bottom of the barrel, or was there something that I didn't know about that was like Stalin beer or something?
That was definitely a regional brand, which is, I never got to experience, but I do collect, and I'm actually involved in a what's it called? NABA, which is the National Association of, or the national. Oh boy, I'm going to mess up the acronym, but it's basically for a bunch.
Mess it up.
No. I'm hosting a beer dinners for a group of folks who are basically, they collect old brewery memorabilia.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Yeah, and I always want to say NAMBA, and I know it's not NAMBA.
No.
But it sounds like it's NABA, National Associate Brewery.
They need to work on it.
The acronym is tragic, but in any case, they have a lot of different stuff that they they trade, tins and placards and all types of stuff.
Right.
And I have seen a lot of Lucky Lager memorabilia is quite collectible, but I have not experienced the beer. But I do get the feeling that it is kind of a regional brand. I don't think
it's water with a beer vibe.
Yeah. It's like if somebody whispered the word beer across.
Hey, water, beer it up a little bit.
It's water that got notes.
Exactly.
Right. Gotcha.
But apparently it got my dad to the place that he needed to get to. So.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
It was mentally away from my mom. So anyway, but that's another story.
Sure.
Well, Brian, if you're like one of 20 of these fancy beer guys, does that mean you have a very fancy or sensitive tongue? You're like one of these super taster people. Like if I were to take a pepper and like throw it in your tongue, you go, too hot or something like that. Because,
Yeah, I'm a full-on cartoon. The way that it, so that's actually interesting you said that, because people do throw around the terminology of super taster, which is coincidentally it's kind of a thing, but it's one of those things when people say it, and I have had, not lying, dozens of people when I'm hosting beer dinners, sensory events, trainings, even for because I'll do obviously stuff for just kind of enthusiasts all the way up to like training people who are going to run the sensory panel for QA/QC for their respective breweries, that sort of stuff. And there's there's occasionally a person that says, well, I'm a super taster, which is like if your eyes could roll the whole way around.
It's like saying I'm a foodie.
It's even more obnoxious because it's suggesting that you have some sort of unbelievable God-given ability that no one else has.
Right.
In reality, there are people who actually have more taste buds per square inch on their tongue, but in most instances, that's actually quite a detriment, because anything that has let's say, for example, a bitter green vegetable that maybe have some inherent level of bitterness, or coffee, for example, that has bitterness to it, it would be so aggressive to them. So a lot of times people who you find that are like extremely picky eaters, they are more likely to be a quote unquote super taster than somebody who. So for the most part, I mean, all of us and the vast majority of people out there, 95% of us are all kind of operating with the same hardware. It's really just getting good at connecting the kind of the vocabulary part of your brain that is translating, because you remember your senses are there, physiologically speaking, to make sure you don't consume things that kill you. Right. So, so you don't eat poison, basically, and connecting that very old, like lizard part of the brain to the very flowery language part of the brain with all these, ornate descriptors.
Right.
Is a skill you have to strengthen.
Right. Like wine tasting, when like there's a wine taster and it's like this a very precocious bouquet in this particular.
I love obnoxious descriptors. I love.
It's arrogant yet slightly racist.
Well, this beer, I'm one of my favorite descriptors, and this is not even a made up one, because I love to make up stupid ones as well. Is when I have heard people say on occasion that I'm getting kind of a fresh cut garden hose type of character, or it's aromas of gerbil cage and sweaty horse blanket. Like these are legit. legit.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah, that people use
so great.
that terminology.
You can really taste the alley in this beer.
Has anyone ever said I can really taste the ass in this? Or
I mean, there is a particular off flavor that is called indole that you are expected to be trained on, and about over half of people are blind to it, me being one of them. So I can't detect this genetically. I can't detect it, but some people can, and it smells very fecal in nature. I've been told.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, whatever you're into, I don't judge.
It's a water. It's an off flavor derived from a certain bacteria that taints water.
Wow.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brian, you like beer and you know a hell of a lot about beer, but you're also a horror sci-fi fan. I'd like to know, like, how you got into that? Like, how long, what kind of got you into?
I've been a horror fan way longer than I've been a beer fan.
Wow.
It really comes down to, I mean, the person that, I always feel like when we have guests on our podcast or wherever we talk to people, there's always like someone who got you into it. For me, it was my Aunt Jill. She was a hardcore horror Halloween nut, like
nice.
Over the top to the umpteenth degree. She used to host these big crazy Halloween parties, and she was the one that was have me and my brother and my cousins over for sleepovers at her house and make us watch the Amityville Horror and stuff, and light candles and say Bloody Mary in the mirror and do all that sort of stuff.
Way to go, Jill.
She was elaborate.
Who is this Aunt Jill?
Yeah, she used to take us out to graveyard, because everyone has that like bloody, hey, if you go on this bridge at midnight, roll your windows down. She would make us do all that stuff, and she would actually have her friends come and scare us, like literally hide in the woods.
Oh my God. No, I didn't have an aunt and uncle like that.
Hey, Larry, we just had brothers like that.
Yeah, but they were mean and cruel. Not like this guy's aunt.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, she was incredible. So she very much, it was funny because, when you're introduced to that type of stuff especially at a young age, it feels like you go in one direction or the other. You either adopt it and go wild or
you just deny all of it. Right.
Right. So me and my younger brother, and then we have two cousins who are the same age, who we all would, kind of grew up. It was like we had four brothers, basically. Right. Me and my brother, we love it, are obsessed with horror. And the other two, I remember my oldest cousin, when he watched Paranormal Activity the night before, he was all freaked out. I came down the next day. We were having a party at his house, came down the next morning to make breakfast, and he had actually thrown the DVD in the trash because he didn't want it in his house anymore. So you get the idea, like they rejected it wholeheartedly, and me and my brother
and you embraced it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My sister, when my brother and I were growing up, we both loved all this stuff, and my sister was the one who wasn't into it whatsoever. So, we'd be around dinner time. I think they were playing reruns of like The Outer Limits, and my mom was the big sci-fi influence in our lives. And so she'd have this on, and my sister would be going, "Why do you have these, the horrible guy with a sixth finger? Why?" And it's just one of those things. It's like you have that gene or you don't.
Right.
Yep.
That's cool. That's awesome. Well, then you are truly perfect for this episode.
Yeah. And Brian, since we're you're the beer expert, and we are doing a show about booze.
Yeah.
Which I would say includes beer. Yes. Right.
Yeah. I mean, alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah. Alcohol. So do you have a horror or science fiction movie ready to go off the top of your head that when you think of this movie, you think, boy, they love the beer there, or
interestingly enough, the very first one that comes to my mind that was kind of ready to go in the hopper for me
was nice.
Was not even beer related. It was actually a liquor, and more specifically a particular old liquor.
I think I know it's on my list.
Called TENAFLY VIPER.
Yes.
It's on my list too.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Something's wrong with us.
No, it's the one of the ultimate booze related horror movies.
Street trash.
Yes, Street Trash from 1987 by
Dayglow nightmare comedy.
Jim Murrow and his
melt movie masterpiece.
Melt movie.
Yeah, which give us the basic gist of the plot.
Yeah,
Brian.
I mean, this is just a waking nightmare of a movie, but in a good way.
Yes.
It's very fun. It's very ridiculous, but it's really about, this community that is inhabited almost exclusively by the worst people in the world.
Like homeless community.
Well, not even homeless, but just
right.
mean, nasty,
right.
stealing,
they're all
fighting,
like drug addicts, murderers. Yeah.
And
the liquor store owner. I mean, my God, what a
very. He's the only one that seems to. Yeah, he seems to have a leg up on everyone and is fully willing to poison the entire community.
Right.
Yeah, it's
he comes across this old case of TENAFLY VIPER and he's like, oh, what the hell? It's probably fine. And
he's like, we'll sell it for $1 a piece. He pulls it out of the and it follows the kind of I hesitate to say protagonist, but a gentleman who is kind of running away from, it's this whole elaborate chase scene to start it off, but ultimately he gets a hold of bottles of this expired poisonous booze of some nature,
and you don't really know what kind of booze it is. Do they say, is it whiskey?
No, they never say. As far as I know, it's just straight up poison. Yeah. And like so much so as the second someone drinks it, within moments after they drink it, they turn into they explode a whole array of things can happen to them.
You literally melt, or you just disintegrate.
But you melt into fluorescent goo.
Yes,
it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah,
it is.
Or sometimes you just explode. That happens as well. It's the one gentleman.
It can happen.
Yeah. It depends on on alcohol content.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you pay too much close attention to the movie and some of the themes and certainly a few of the scenes, it is generally repugnant, but like I said, in a very fun way.
Yeah, and over the top, ridiculous. It knows what it is, and it's just exactly.
Yeah, very self-aware, very just over the top, ridiculous, gross out.
Right.
Yeah, and if you love, I don't want to give this away, but if you love genitals,
the way I do.
Yes.
This is your film.
Yes. No, that is a perfect one to start with. I'm telling you.
It is schlock to the highest degree. I love it.
Yes. It was kind of notorious when it came out.
What's the date on that one, guys?
87.
And who's the director on that one?
Jim Murrow. Murrow.
Yeah. J. Michael Murrow.
Yes. Jimmy, aka Jimmy Murrow. But he was also a pioneer of Steadicam, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
It's really the thing is, it's a pretty well shot movie too. It's very low budget, but it looks good for its budget. That's the thing.
Yeah, he was an early adopter of Steadicam technology, so much so that this, just absolute schlock nonsense, crazy fever dream actually ended up being quite influential from a cinematography perspective.
Yeah, it was his calling card. It opened lots of doors.
Yeah,
it melted them.
Yeah.
Would you guys, Sean, would you recommend this? Is it?
Oh yeah, I have the Blu-ray. It's amazing.
Yeah. No,
I do too. I love it. I have the Vinegar Syndrome release of this. It's a classic. It's so fun.
You have to see this. That's
a good one.
You will not believe it. It's the type of film that would never be made now, or would be so self-consciously made that it would ruin it.
Yeah. Exactly.
They threw caution to the wind. That is for sure. And then, I actually screened this with a bunch of friends last summer, a double feature with Demon Wind.
That's a great one too. I like that one.
And most of the people who attended had never seen either, and some friendships were ruined, and it was
and others were gained.
But see, those friendships weren't really friendships.
They weren't strong. They were built. They were built on sand. Yeah,
that was the ultimate litmus test.
They were built on a lie.
Built on a lie.
There's people that want to hang out with you. You say, "Hey, he's connected to beer. Hey, let's try to be buddies and rub elbows."
Oh yeah, watch this.
Yeah. If you can't take my street trash, you don't deserve my beer.
That's good. I like that. Well, speaking of beer, I wanted to throw one out here because this is one that actually Matt you recommended to my wife and I, and we enjoyed it a lot. And this was from 2012, it's kind of a sci-fi or maybe sci-fi horror comedy called Grabbers.
Oh yeah,
that is super fun.
Really fun movie. Basically, it's like this isolated island in Ireland, right?
Yeah.
And the kind of local folks who work in this small town. There's this one guy. The main guy is kind of like this, alcoholic or former alcoholic trying to get his life back together. And there's various, colorful characters. But there's this, I think it's like a meteor or something crashes in the water nearby and releases these creatures. They're like these huge tentacle creatures that kind of come from the water and grab people and eat them. Except they find out there's like a local drunk or something on the island that it grabs and then like immediately spits back out. And they find out that it's because the monsters live on water and blood, but alcohol to them is toxic.
I don't like it.
So the best defense against these things is for everybody to gather in the local pub and get fucking drunk. Yeah. So the aliens leave them alone. And it's great.
From that point on, everybody is wasted.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie.
It's really fun.
Except the alcoholic cop,
right?
Because ironically, he has to protect the whole town.
Sure,
exactly.
Yes.
So he's always in danger. Right. But it's really funny. It's comedy, but it's but the horror and scares are done straight. It's the effects are pretty good.
And the comedy is appropriate. It's not hit you over the head. It's character driven and
right.
Kind of adorable in places.
It is.
Yeah.
It's really fun and it's a very clever idea.
I gotta see that.
It almost
again.
reminds me of like it definitely has some like atomic age sci-fi monster flick type of elements.
Sure.
But it also is like I don't know why, and it's been some years since I saw it, but if I recall, I remember thinking to myself, it kind of reminded me of The Tingler a little bit as well.
Really?
Yeah, where it was like it was that kind of physiological thing that they couldn't control. Maybe I don't remember. I need to go back and revisit that because I think I saw it not long after it was released.
Yeah, it's fun. John Wright directed it. Killian Coyle, Ruth Bradley, Stuart Graham in it. Really
2012.
Fun. Yep.
Yeah,
a good one.
Now, this isn't really I guess not a liquor movie, really, but there's an element of it that I think is pretty clever when it comes to a different take on booze. And that is the original 1988 Alien Nation.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
And what I love about that, so this is, a bunch of these aliens that are immigrants who are escaping persecution, have landed on Earth, and now they're being assimilated into our society. And, there's a lot of metaphors about, intolerance and so forth. They want to be able to be an equal part of our society, but of course that's not ever going to really happen.
Like immigration issues and stuff like that.
But so Mandy Patinkin is a cop, a visitor, a newcomer is what they're called. Newcomer cop. And his partner is James Caan. And so he's sort of, not so crazy about the newcomers, but they end up forming a friendship. And there's this one scene where they're hanging out at his place and, he offers Mandy Patinkin a drink and he's like, wow, that doesn't really affect us. And he goes into his refrigerator and there's some spoiled milk. And that's their booze.
That gets them drunk.
And
so
I love that.
Yeah. It's like they, obviously alcohol or ethanol specifically, it comes from alcoholic fermentation from yeast metabolism. That's what is the essentially, poison that affects our brains in a pleasurable way.
Mm-hmm.
But in their instance, I always took that as it was like lactic acid. Like it's so they could just get hammered from eating Greek yogurt or something like that.
Wow! I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's that's like a hard-boiled version of the Coneheads almost. Like that's how I remember that.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Yeah, and man, that had legs. That thing went on. There was a TV show and
a TV show. I actually like the TV show better in some ways. I think it wasn't bad. They explored the characters a little more fully in the series because the movie was more. It was kind of like in a very basic way, it was like a buddy cop film with a human and an alien.
Yeah.
But it was
fish out of water kind of thing.
But it was good. But the series was good too. Yeah.
Yeah, and they did comic books and novels and everything like.
Yep.
But I remember seeing that scene and thinking, "Wow, yeah." I mean,
funny.
for every different alien culture out there, every different physiology is going to have a different thing that gets them fucked up.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And along those lines, brings me to one of my favorites because I just love the color so much. It was first seen in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and I'm talking about Romulan Ale.
Sweet Romulan Ale.
Now, for those people out there who aren't really Star Trek people, just imagine, if you will, there's this special booze out there from an alien, and it's just maybe a little too powerful, a little too potent. So the Federation says, you know what, we're not allowing that. It's illegal. Okay, we can't import that. But like all kind of fun little substances, if Matt lived in that century, he'd be, sneaking all kinds of that Romulan Ale into his
what are you trying to say?
I'm not, nothing really. But
meaning I would break the law to get something cool.
Look. In this wonderful film, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, which came out in 1982, you basically have a moment where William Shatner, who's playing Captain Kirk, is actually having a moment about he's now an admiral and he's thinking about, how he's gotten kind of old and stuff. And meanwhile, what we find out is there's this villain that he encountered back in the classic series who is now kind of coming after him. But there's this moment when it's his birthday and his good friend, Dr. McCoy, comes over and he brings over a gift. And the first thing William Shatner or Captain Kirk says, Romulan Ale, why, Bones, this is illegal. And Bones, being the medical guy, says, I only use it for medicinal purpose. So it's like, okay, so.
And what impression was that? I'm just curious.
That was Dr. McCoy.
Dr. McCoy with a mouthful of marbles, guys.
Yeah,
Keep up.
Okay. But what's amazing about it is it's good, it's powerful, it's delicious, but it really does give you some kind of a hangover later on.
It's really strong.
Yeah,
I have a bottle from Cork's Bar that they used to sell at this.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Unopened,
Larry. So Larry, I wonder though, do you think Romulan Ale is stronger, more potent than say Tranya? Because we don't really know what Tranya.
Absolutely.
Is Tranya even alcoholic necessarily?
I think Tranya is.
No one.
No, I think Tranya is alcoholic, but think about it. Belloc is the little character that has the Tranya and offers it. He's so small that it can't be that powerful because it would just make it go,
you don't know what his physiology.
Metabolism can be different. I mean, think about Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay, Brian. Oh, yeah, Mr. Beer Guy. Listen, Beer Guy. Look, Tranya, look, Belloc is a little guy. He's a little guy. And the Romulans, they're an offshoot of Vulcans. Hello. And they're very strong. And so it has to be really powerful. But I do think that it's delicious enough, it's fruity enough to make go, this is good, it's strong, it's powerful. But it's the hammer that comes, when you wake up. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about it is the color. It's blue. And ever since I saw that, I always wanted my little alcoholic drinks. I want to be blue. Sean would offer me like, here, Larry, here's a zombie. Ooh, it's blue. It's like a Romulan Ale. Oh, I want to try some of that. So I love alcoholic drinks that are blue. That's a hypnotic.
Oh yeah,
hypnotic.
Blue.
Hypnotic.
Blue,
and people say, "Oh, Larry, that's a girl's drink," but it's blue. Well, I mean, I love it because it's blue.
Cool.
You also got to be careful too, because Romulan Ale later in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, almost leads to an intergalactic incident.
It's here on my list. What's great is this thing that's brought up in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. It carries on into Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. It also goes on to the next. They use it in Next Generation. It's in Deep Space Nine. It's in Generations. But Matt's right. There's a moment where in Star Trek VI, which is also directed by Nicholas Meyer, Valaris, who is the Vulcan, she's like a Vulcan, like a lieutenant. She offers to Captain Kirk, when they're going to have, the Klingons, I have to do my duty. And, hey, Klingons, come over for dinner tonight before we have this meeting. And they accept. And she says to Captain Kirk, we have a case of Romulan Ale. Maybe it'll help make the meeting go more smoothly. And he's all, opposite thinking. That's a great idea. Thinking, okay, let's offer the Klingons some Romulan Ale. And it's like a fancy booze that might make them a little tipsy. But Matt's right. You don't know how it's going to go. But later on,
it would have been better. It would have been better to offer them Klingon blood wine, right?
But,
right. That's not right.
Where did they get Klingon blood wine, Matt?
From Kronos?
So they can just go and drive their. Hey, Kronos! Hey, let's go, Starship.
From the same
they
guy.
Can't do that.
Yeah, no. Why do you make all these rules that are completely arbitrary?
No. Okay, let me ask you.
The same person that got them the Romulan Ale can also get them Klingon blood wine.
If they got an ale guy, they got a blood wine.
Thank you,
Brian. Brian, how come you don't know? You don't know if they confiscated that. This Enterprise is going along and go, oh, what are those smugglers doing over there? What do you got in here? Oh, Romulan Ale. Well, you can't have that. It's illegal. We'll take it on our ship. We're going to destroy it. It just so happens that it's there. It's not like they're going out of their way saying, hey, let's get some illegal Romulan Ale.
Have you ever watched MASH? You know the show MASH, or any World War II or war movie. There's always that guy that's on the base that's like, hey, we need to get. Remember the episode where in MASH where they get the barbecue?
I can get you that.
And there's always a way. And so look, Romulan Ale was kind of a good bet because it's strong, but they figured that the Klingons could handle it. But it turns out it caused a problem. And,
right.
But while we're on this, we got to go. Can we just run through some of the other Star Trek boozes? Because there are a lot of them. We got
James. I know you're dying to talk about this.
Yeah.
James knows all about this. Saurian brandy.
Saurian brandy.
Right.
Now, one of my favorite Saurian brandy moments was in the original series episode By Any Other Name, where they have the aliens that they don't have any emotions, but they have humanoid bodies.
Yeah.
And there's that great scene where they take over the ship and then Scotty's like, hey, since they are not familiar with emotions, let's get them fucked up.
Right.
Essentially, yes.
So, he brings one of these guys in and he gets the Saurian brandy, but he keeps feeding him booze. And this guy has a pretty good constitution.
Right.
I always
never had it before.
Never had it before. But then there's that one moment where they've run out of everything. And Scotty goes, well, what about this? And it's this green bottle of something.
Well, the alien goes, what is it?
What is it? And he goes, it's green.
Because he couldn't see what the label said.
Know what it was. Yeah.
At that point in the evening where you've expended all options, you're just drinking things from under the sink. That's a problematic point in the evening.
That's true. He's like aftershave.
Listen, just dial 911. Don't hit send yet. Just wait until we see what happens.
But what's great about that moment is because it's an alien and how it affects these aliens is a little different. There's this moment where the alien kind of shakes his head because he doesn't explode, but he passes out in a funky way.
It's really funny, actually. Yeah, his head swings around a couple times and then just hits the table.
Matt, would you say it's alien? It's alien-like. It's like he
does a great job.
And,
it's a wonderful
performance. And James Doohan, who plays Scotty, it's like, my God, this triumphant moment. He has put down this alien by way of booze.
Larry, what's the line?
Poison this stranger so hard.
Yeah, what's the final line, Larry? He has the bottle and he goes, you and me put him right under the table. and then he's about to walk off and tell the captain,
in triumph.
And then, of course, passes out. It's classic.
Yeah.
James, I don't know why you don't like Star Trek because
I love Star Trek.
That's a classic. That's like a classic
sitcom
fun.
That's a great bit.
It's a great bit. It's classic sitcom funny.
It's a great Scotty moment too. It's a great, it's really good.
I always took it that Romulan Ale, and I'm not a diehard Star Trek fan by any means. I've been wanting to get into it more, but it's never been something that's been as on my radar as horror or other things.
Sure, it's okay.
But I'll take my ridicule. But so I do remember one very specific instance, and you guys could tell me what this is from. I think it's from The Next Generation because my grandfather was a hardcore fan of The Next Generation. We used to sit and watch it at his house. And there was a scene, and this is how I'm remembering it, where there there are people, and it seems like they're at like a wedding reception or something, and they're outside. And I just remember Worf, which, Worf obviously, has a very strong constitution. He's kind of a badass,
right,
obviously. And they're talking, and Worf is sitting by himself at a table, kind of holding his head like he's hungover. What's that? And he says something
Star Trek
about
10. It's Nemesis. It's Riker. It's a great moment because Riker and Deanna Troi. This is the moment that we've all been waiting for. They get married.
Yes.
And Jean-Luc Picard, who's always had to be straight and narrow, has to give a speech. And it's a great speech like any of us would give at someone's wedding. And it was really fun. But Worf, bless his heart, has really downed the Romulan Ale.
Yeah.
And he's having a massive headache, and he's all,
but he still enunciates so well. That's what I love about Worf. No matter how hungover he is, his enunciation.
And Geordi and Guinan are saying, "You okay, Worf?" That's Romulan Ale. It should be made illegal. And Geordi looks at him and goes, "It is." And again, it's like before the days of making marijuana legal. It's like at Matt's wedding, or say, "Hey, everyone, light up," or something like that, or
that's
something
my
like
wedding,
that.
right?
Then everyone has that classic marijuana hangover.
Hey man, I got reefer.
But it's like
this knot.
We all smoke those jazz cigarettes and get that classic marijuana hangover.
Well, Brian, that's what I'm saying. They were saying, they're going, you know what? It's like we've been on this mission for 7 years. We've been all uptight. Let's let our hair down. We're getting married now. Let's get out that Romulan Ale that we confiscated.
Well, let me ask you a question that relates to Worf, and we won't go. I mean, there's so much. There really is a lot of Star Trek booze, not even counting all the cocktails that were available at Quark's Bar.
Right?
Star Trek experience,
or the 10 Forward. Yeah.
I mean, there's the warp core breach, and there's all these things.
Right.
But this is a question I've always had, which is, so as we know, in the Next Generation, Guinan turns Worf onto prune juice, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, right? He drinks it and he goes, "This is a warrior's drink," right?
Yes.
So my question is, was prune juice to Worf like an alcoholic beverage, or was it just something that tasted good? Because I would think that when he says it's a warrior's drink, it might have a punch of some sort that maybe human, it wouldn't affect a human, but a Klingon would go, "Oh,
no."
Right.
He's saying that because it's not tasty. It's not tasty to human. It's disgusing.
That's your okay. Well, that's
like drinking
theory.
Dr. Pepper.
Maybe it's just
I'd spit it out.
Strong flavored. Yeah, it's getting intense flavor. I like to imagine that it was like Pruno. It was like
Pruno.
It was prison hooch that fermented prune juice from the toilet or something.
But
I like this.
His colon was really clean afterwards.
Yeah, unless it wasn't.
He's famous for his regularity.
He's not human.
I know that.
But he poops.
How do you know?
He poops. Everyone poops.
Evereverone poops.
Right.
The beer guy.
Except Tribbles. Tribbles don't poop.
Tribbles do not poop. I
see.
They just breathe.
See, no.
They poop other Tribbles.
See, I don't think that's actually true, Sean. I don't think that we.
Yes, it is. Don't you? Tribbles eat and they multiply. That's all they do. That's their way of. They multiply. They don't. Yeah.
They create no waste. No waste.
Exactly.
Now, this I'm not aware of this. But
is it documented?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for trying to pay attention.
Hold on here, though.
What does the research say?
Well, I'll tell you this. The way that I always envisioned Tribbles was that they multiply asexually like yeast do. So when you multiply asexually, you bud, right? So a mother yeast cell buds and creates daughter yeast cells.
Right.
But that's not to say they don't have metabolic byproducts. In beer, the alcohol and CO2 are the metabolic byproducts. So really, alcohol and CO2 in beer is like the Tribble poop.
Beer is like the crap waste.
Triple P. Yeah, it's triple
Oh my
P.
God.
Wow, you heard it here first at Monster Party, folks.
My head is exploding.
I'm hoping that is, published in some sort of scientific.
Brian, we need we need to market this.
Triple piss. Triple piss.
Triple piss. Come on. There's a market.
Wow.
Unfortunately,
we don't need the others.
75% of the market is on this call right now.
Yes, and look, let's be frank. Tribble, it's a licensed thing. It belongs to the Star Trek universe, which belongs to Paramount. So, I mean, anything that we
we'll write a very convincing email. They'll be on board.
No, but you know what, Brian? This is what I would say. I would be happy to offer this idea to Paramount. I'm looking for the can of Tribble piss. That would be
I think we all are.
Sounds delicious.
Yes.
Well, would they call it something else, Matt or Sean? What do you think?
No, I think it's perfect.
Triple piss. You can't beat triple piss.
Yeah, it gets your attention right there.
And that's the tagline. You just wrote the tagline. You can't beat triple.
You can't beat this.
You got to sing it in a jingle, though. It's like the old
Yes. All right, James, what do you got?
Yeah, James.
Well, sooner or later, you got to talk about the Citizen Kane of alcoholic horror movies, which is The Shining. Right?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Him
at the bar.
Yeah. And Stephen King himself was no stranger to substances. By his
all
own
make and
admission.
manner, yeah.
Yeah. And certainly you got Jack Torrance, Jack Nicholson in the Kubrick film, who is trying to be on the wagon and a good dad.
Is he?
Well,
that's a great
in
question.
theory, right?
In the Kubrick film now.
He's trying, just not super hard.
In that car where they're asking questions, he's trying to answer those questions.
His knuckles are so white on that steering wheel.
He's got his limitations.
Don't backhand. Don't backhand.
Right.
Heard it on the television.
We don't know how many meetings he's been to. His recovery is questionable. And the thing of it is, I mean, the haunted hotel, which is like, tempting him. Now he's got the bar and the bartender and the full bar, and it's all free, and his money's no good there.
It takes advantage of his weakness. I mean,
exactly.
praise on that.
Can you pass up a deal like that, though?
Yeah. He says, I have money. Never mind. No, I don't. Lloyd says, don't worry about it. I mean,
your money's no good here.
Yeah. James, can you imagine if we go to Comic-Con, we go downstairs to the hotel and we go, oh man, and the bartender goes, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, I go nuts. Wouldn't you?
I'll happily stay inside the picture.
Yeah.
Right. It's true.
But I mean,
that's a good one.
And it's clearly, I mean, you don't know how much of it is going on in his head and how much of it is actually like corporeal in the film. But as it happens, it is corporeal. There really is. There are real flesh and blood, ghosts inhabiting the hotel, and he's really probably getting drunk on something. Is this ghost booze, right?
Yeah, right.
So
is that booze is spelled BOOS. Sorry, couldn't resist.
No.
James, since you are our Shining or Stephen King expert, are you saying that when he drinks the booze from the bartender, it's not really there? Is it ghost booze? Is he getting high off imaginary?
He might be just like
spirits.
It's spirits.
I'm on fire here, guys. Listen, it's 12. It's after midnight.
James,
I've been drinking. I can't help it.
You have been outpunned here. You really have.
I am busted. It's true.
Relinquish your crown.
But the spirits, the booze. I mean, is it in his mind or is it real?
It turns out to be real. You're not quite sure. Certainly in reading the book, I mean, you're not really sure where it's going. But there are forces at work that are corporeal and physical, and they unlock the freezer door and let him out.
That's right. How would that happen? You're absolutely right.
Right. So, I mean, certainly King was going through. I mean, he was much younger King. He was his kids were younger. He was certainly already dealing with his substance issues, and I think this novel was a way of his kind of working a lot of that stuff out.
And what was that booze, by the way? Was that he was drinking?
Yeah. So interestingly, this came up in bar trivia when I was actually out with my brother. We were in Nashville. We were doing bar trivia, and this came up. And they asked, "What was he drinking?" And I didn't know the answer, so I had to Google it. Obviously, I didn't during bar trivia because that's strictly forbidden. But it was he asks for bourbon. Right. He says, give me a bottle of bourbon, keep them coming, whatever the thing is. But he then he pours Jack Daniels. And then the debate that started off between my brother and my wife and my sister-in-law is, well, Jack Daniels isn't bourbon. It's Tennessee whiskey.
Whiskey, yes.
But bourbon is whiskey. So it's one of those things where not all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon kind of thing. So there's specific ramifications around. And so we had this big knockdown drag out argument about, well, no, it's not bourbon. It's whiskey. It's Tennessee whiskey. Ultimately, what we came to the conclusion is that Jack Daniels does meet the specifications legally of bourbon, but it does have a kind of couple of extra like filtration steps that make it specifically Tennessee whiskey. So I think technically speaking, it is bourbon, but it is kind of it's its own thing a little bit. So just, I mean,
was it one
for
of those
who care about minutia, we argued for 3 hours about this.
Kubrick was famous for caring about minutia himself.
I'm sure it was very.
It was probably a deliberate choice.
Yeah, I'm sure he was doing everything very carefully and choosing what he did.
Was it one of those moments where maybe the bartender went, "I know what you want. I know what you're asking for."
Well, and especially if the bartender's in his head too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right.
If you have made me want a glass of whiskey now so badly. Because I feel like it's kind of like now it's like, James, it's like I want to let's watch The Shining and let's all get glasses of whiskey, and find a moment.
No, I'm drinking Romulan Ale. I don't care. I'm still on that.
See, I love Matt. I love it, but I feel like if I'm watching that film, I kind of have to go with the theme. I have to feel it. No, it's like, don't get me wrong. If Matt, if we're watching Star Trek 2, bring on the Romulan Ale. But it's like if I'm watching Shining, I want to be in with the mood. I'm not going to get my.
If you're snowbound, you want something that's going to go down hot, and that's
something to warm me up.
True.
Yeah. If you're gonna swing, blunt objects at your loved ones, you got to anger up the blood a little bit, right?
That's right.
How about why not sake then? A little hot sake.
Oh, hot sake. Yeah.
Hot sake.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Toshiro Mifune, it got him going a number of times.
But see, but Matt, then I'm not going to go for the baseball bat. I'm going to go for the samurai sword. That's the problem.
I want to see that
Wendy,
movie.
Give me the sword. Give me this. I mean, if she does that, I mean, a finger's gone. I mean, come on.
Wow,
Am I right?
think we've got the remake right there.
Yeah.
There's so many things we have to copyright tonight.
Yeah.
TM, Brian,
and trademark.
Throw some more. What do you got?
Give us another one.
Okay, I'm going to throw one out here, and it wasn't necessarily the one I was going to say, but because we've talked about beer, because we've talked about, distilled spirits, I think we got to give wine a little bit of attention as well.
Sure.
So I'm going to say one of my favorite lines in horror history comes from the classic 1931 Dracula.
Sure. Of course.
And, this is very old wine. I hope you will like it. Aren't you drinking? I never drink ... wine. Right? I mean, come on, Bela Lugosi line, which was came back around in the Bram Stoker's Dracula version from 94, 93.
Yeah, and a couple other incarnations too.
Yeah, but nothing ever is going to compare to Bela Lugosi. Saying that, and then the shot with the stripe of light across his eyes. I mean, classic line from obviously Todd Browning's. One of the greatest horror flicks. That's one of the ones that The Invisible Man, Bride of Frankenstein, I probably watch all of them once every other month, probably. Especially now that my kids are of the age where they're into it, and they can deal with us. We watch them constantly, and
Can't go
that's
wrong.
always one of those lines that I remember, looking for. So
Yep.
But Brian, being a horror fan though, so if this is taking place at that time, when you ask yourself, what type of wine is that?
Oh boy!
I mean, chances are it's not going to be a white wine, right?
No,
probably not.
I mean, Dracula doesn't drink white wine.
No. I know it's an old wine, so it's going to be red. But it's like, as we know, there are many different kinds of red. There's the Merlot, the Cabernet, the Burgundy. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, for sure, you're 100% right. It's got to be red because listen, hundreds and hundreds of year old vampire is not drinking a glass of Pinot Gris with an ice cube in it, right? So it's got to be something a little bit more robust than that. We're talking about way far, and I'm not a wine expert by any means, but far Eastern Europe. Yeah. I know that there's, I don't remember the name, and even if I did, I wouldn't try to butcher it, but I know there are an entire world of very popular that are experiencing resurgence right now, Georgian wines that are fermented in clay underground. So I'm thinking Dracula, if he's picking a wine from Eastern Europe, he's getting Eastern urine. I think that was Eastern Europe.
Copyright it.
TM. No, but if he's picking a wine, he's going to pick the one that came from, a proverbial crypt, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. That's true. That's a good, I like that.
But I
wish I knew the name, but
Sean has mentioned that we had an argument once about Dracula and his sexuality. I thought, vampires are not having sex, and Sean's like, yes, they're always having sex. So
yes, that's all they do, right?
Well, according as Sean would say, but Sean, why would he not want the wine? Can he it's like, look, I'm just going to drink blood and that's it. Can't he do a little wine?
Well, no, I think, but he has that because he has to put on the facade that he's human. Yes. When he does have guests, he has to have something. He provided food for his guests too, so he just has to have wine available. But being who he is, I think, like you said, he's a count, and he would have something very special and unique.
I took it as imagine that scenario where you go to that one house, way on the end of the cul-de-sac for trick or treat, that they don't get a lot of trick or treaters. You knock on their door. They clearly are unprepared, and you end up getting a can of Diet Coke or some pennies or something like that.
or a package of corn nuts. That's it. Yeah. God, I hate
war bonds.
A pack of a Lucky Strike, maybe.
Here, have a couple of Lucy's, kid. But I just imagine that's what Dracula was like. He was like, shit, I have a human coming. What do I have?
Right. What do I have in the refrigerator? Okay.
Yeah. I got this old wine.
Let's see. Kraft mac and cheese.
Purple stuff, Sunny D.
Pockets.
SpaghettiOs. Oh, damn it.
It's fun, Brian. We're all joking here, but you bring up a really good point. Matt brings up a very good point. You're right. What? It's first of all, look, we know that it wasn't like the guy just showed up out of nowhere. He was expecting him. So he's probably going, all right, he's coming in about a week.
Yeah, he's coming. He has to sign all the documents.
I got to get something. I got to get something. I got to grab something.
Wait a minute. So here's my angle with this, which is, okay, so we know he doesn't drink wine. The vampire doesn't drink wine. But let's talk about blood for a second. Mm-hmm. Now, we know that vampires live off blood, but it seems like also when a vampire drinks blood, that there's kind of a rush.
It's an addiction. So
is blood kind of their booze in a way?
It could.
It hits everything. It's food. It's booze. It's sort of like their own fun protein shake. It does everything.
Think of it this way, Matt. If you think about it too, the issue is you can't just get any blood. It's like it has to be when you bite someone, it's like they're still alive. And as you start to drain it, it's warm blood, it's pumping blood, it's moving. Yeah, if you found someone that's been dead for 4 hours and a vampire bites it and go, it's like if you're used to warm, it's like if you're used to warm coffee and someone hands you a cup of, here, try this iced coffee. You go, and you drink it, that's disgusting. That's sick.
That exact thing happened to me today. Somebody handed me an iced coffee. I lost my fucking mind.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say the F word on the podcast. So
yes.
Have you listened to the show?
I have. I just didn't want to be the first one who did it.
So what about the instance? I know this. I think I've seen this in some movie or TV show. I just can't remember what. But when a vampire drinks the blood of like a wino,
Love at first bite,
gets the alcohol in him.
Yeah. Love at first bite.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, that's kind of comedic. That's a comedic way, but but would you? I mean, would that be in their blood? If the alcohol is in their blood?
Yeah,
I think
yes.
So.
Okay, well, wait a minute. I worked on a show called Stand Against Evil.
Oh, okay? Well, then you're the expert. Go ahead.
No, wait a minute. Well, wow. You are in rare form tonight.
Wow. I'm soaking it up.
So here we go. So I worked on this show, and there was an episode that we did that was called Vampire Creek, which was kind of like a sort of a comedic take on like the Vampire Diaries, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this episode, Evie, played by Janet Varney, is turned into a vampire. And so it's her first time drinking blood, and it's at a vampire prom. And so what happens, like a lot of proms, is she drinks too much of the blood and gets drunk. So now she's like hitting on people and, just being that worst kind of drunk that you see at an event. And of course she ends up throwing up, but it was funny. It was good. It was written by Candice Martellaro, who she wrote a really funny script, but I thought that's a really kind of a funny way of like that, your first time out as a vampire, you
overindulging a little bit.
Yeah, you do too much. And then, now your limit, it's like,
it's like a kid trying to smoke. Yeah. Like a kid trying to smoke a cigarette for the first time,
Right. Or eating all your candy.
It reminds me of the first time when I was a kid, my dad, growing up, my dad used to chew tobacco, like nail pouch, and I always say, hey, what are you doing there? And he would say, well, you can try it, but you got to swallow, you can't spit it out. You got to swallow, just because he wanted me to do it. So I would get sick and then never want to do it again. Kind of thing. But I do remember that. It's like that scene from, oh boy, what's the baseball movie? The Sandlot, right? When they're all doing the spinny thing and they all.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Well, I wasn't a big watcher of True Blood on HBO, but wasn't True Blood itself a blood product, like it came in a bottle?
It was like a synthetic blood product.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I think that there is like it is their nutrition, but it's just like it's like going through the McDonald's drive-thru and inhaling 3 double cheeseburgers. But then the next night you might go out and spend, several $100s on sushi. You know what I mean? It's it's sustenance, but it also can be enjoyed on a little deeper sensory driven level, I guess.
Right.
You could go back to the fast food place the next day and get something else because they have a wide selection.
Thank you, Larry.
McRib.
Thank you.
Wow.
And you know what?
You've enlightened us.
Larry, just call up the McDonald's menu.
How much Larry tickled himself.
Yeah, I want to make sure I know everything that McDonald's serves.
Yeah. Okay, here's one from the sci-fi world that I know Larry will know and appreciate. Because let's say, there's a particular type of booze that you love. What if you could get as much of it as you want anytime from a robot? And I'm talking, of course, about 1956 Forbidden Planet. Earl Holliman is cook. He likes the Kansas City bourbon.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And he mentions this to Robbie. And guess what? Robbie can pretty much fucking make anything.
Right.
So he just tells him, okay, I forget what he says, like, what, 800 gallons be sufficient or something? He's like,
first he has to sample it, Sean. First he has to sample it, remember?
Right.
They're off in the corner sneaking behind a boulder. And he's like, so you want 800 gallons, do you?
So the next day, literally is a pile of body. He makes the bottles and the labels.
Yeah,
he makes everything.
The labels, everything.
It's all there. It's genuine. It's the real thing. It's like cook is set, man, for like the rest of the mission.
Yeah.
It's funny because when he takes a sample, he coughs smooth too. And I'm like, that's not smooth. I remember Sean at that point, I remember thinking, you're an idiot. That was my thought, because it's like, if it's going to make you cough like that, that's not smooth. It's like, if it's smooth, you'll.
Hey, but if you're used to that, that's what you like.
No, it's like when I have sushi and I put the wasabi in the soy sauce, I like it so it hurts.
Sure.
Like that's how spicy I like it.
Sometimes you like Some people like.
You got to know you got to remind yourself you're alive.
Right.
Thank you.
There you go.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
I want to feel something.
Yeah.
I
love all of those, like how those types of atomic age sci-fi, they always had one wildly cartoonish character. I love that guy.
Yeah.
He was that guy. He was like, they brought him in to do a whole shtick, and he stuck to it the whole movie.
Oh yeah.
Everyone else played it straight, and he was like a cartoon.
And Sean, I'm so glad you brought that up, because the neat thing is, because he brings the robot out, he really has just the one bottle. His one bottle. It's like, hey, can you help me? And that's all he has.
Yeah.
And so the robot says, let me analyze it. And he takes it and he chugs what he
receptacle.
He thought he was just gonna get a sip, but he takes the whole thing. And then he goes, hey, that's my whole bottle. He goes, please, sir, I am analyzing. Then all of a sudden you hear him go, burr. You heard the robot burr.
Classic guy.
It is. And then he goes, with what was it? He goes with oil, and he talks about all this funky stuff that's in it, then he says that with 800 gallons. And can you imagine having a robot being able to make that for you?
Well, when they make the Fred Barton, Robbie the Robots,
the real life size ones,
they should have it so it actually can dispense. Like there's a little area where booze that comes out
like a water cooler. He's
like a decanter.
Yes, right. Yeah,
that would be genius.
I've known for a long time. Matt's wife has said that they're going to get one. So when that happens, Matt, I'm going to bring over my booze. And I'm going to get okay.
Yeah. We'll customize it to do that. Yeah.
Yes, right, exactly.
I want to know, is whoever made Robbie the Robot, does he have some sort of GI tract that makes him burp? Or did they just put that simulated sound in there that said, when a human makes you, asks you to make some sort of consumable product, this is going to be a great fit? You know what I mean? Like, which one? Either one's a wild proposition.
Right.
Wow. I love the fact that you're actually trying to justify it in the world.
But what I do know is the belch is actually the guy who was the voice of Robbie the Robot. That was him. Yep. But you've asked a question that I just can't answer.
Maybe it's just coincidence that is the sound that his mechanism.
When he's
analyzing something.
Complete he does it all the time when he's analyzing.
Sean's right. Like when he looks at when Anne Francis says, "Oh, can I have this dress?" and he goes, "Oh, how would sapphires do?" She goes, "Well, okay." And what if he does this to analyze it? You hear him go, "Burp." That's how he analyzes for everything.
That was a good.
Can you eat this? Can you make this McRib? Please, sir, does the burp or whatever it is.
Right.
I can't help but imagine Larry sitting on that planet with 8,000 McRibs, just sitting there smiling, grinning.
Hey, Larry, do you like the McRib?
I've tried the McRib. It's okay. It's all right.
It's okay.
You know what I like? This and call me crazy.
Okay.
But what I like is typically when I stop at the old Mickey D's, all right, it's usually I'm on the road, sure. I got to drive. And so I want to be able to handle something easily. And so it's either if it's morning, it's always that little sausage burrito, easy to handle.
That's good. That's good.
Yep. Or if it's dinner time, it's cheeseburger, like 3 cheeseburgers, but I'll get the hot mustard sauce that I can dip. I put that on the little middle thing. So I just kind of dip and because a Big Mac, I can't believe I'm talking about it. The Big Mac brought to you by McDonald's. The Big Mac, it's big. You're trying to handle it.
It's messy. The lettuce falls out.
It's a simple.
That's better when you sing at home with a TV tray.
Look. Don't lose your heads, guys. Okay, because the Big Mac. That's why you go to McDonald's. The Big Mac.
No, exactly. I love the Big Mac.
Genius. Listen. So this is what you do.
You just don't eat it in the car. That's all.
No, you can do it in the car, Sean. All you got to do is you got to get a napkin and you wrap it around the burger.
Oh, yeah,
what? Wrap the napkin?
Yeah, this isn't in and out, Matt.
Yes, that's
no.
Yeah.
It's like I put the napkin. Then I'm driving. Okay, are my eyes on the burger or my eyes on the road? I'm a responsible driver, Matt. I am watching the road. So when I stick that hamburger in my mouth,
so you eat food every time you take a bite. You look right at it, like you're wearing a jeweler's loop.
Do you know how easy it is to eat a burrito while you're driving? You're driving. It's narrow like your mouth. Well, you have a large mouth, so you can eat that big burger.
When you're driving, Larry, you have your burger, wrapped in a napkin. Then you take your chug of whiskey, and you're good.
It feels so wildly appropriate that the conversation in the booze show has devolved into this.
Yeah,
right. Okay, I'm sorry. You're right.
Fast food
Brian,
in horror and sci-fi.
Yeah. You're right.
And
this is a great topic. This is great, but we should get back to booze.
Yeah, let's go on. Let's continue.
Speaking of the 50s, another great 50s film that has a quite famous, I think, drunk is the 1954 film Them.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
There is a wonderful scene where they're trying to track down the ants. And they're looking for the queens.
Oh, yes, that
and they
guy.
go to this drunk ward.
Yes.
And they find this drunk who witnessed these ants traveling and flying around.
And they don't believe him because he's a drunk.
They don't believe him because he's a drunk. But this guy's name is Jensen. He's played by Olin Howard. So they're asking him all about the ants. And I guess, I don't know if he's still drunk or he's like one of those drunks that it's just now in his system all the time. So
right.
that guy now. But at one point they're trying to get information from him. And he goes, "General, I'll make a deal with you. You make me a sergeant in charge of the booze and I'll enlist. Make me a sergeant in charge of the booze.
Make me a sergeant in charge of the booze."
And that scene, if anyone ever said that, I would know exactly, of course, what movie they're talking about. And And if I was ever in the military, I would ask for that position.
Yeah.
And also, guys, that actor, Olin Howland, is the old guy in the Blob who first gets
That's right.
Yes.
Is it on his hand? Yeah.
It's the same guy. It's two famous sci-fi 50s roles.
He does drunks so well.
But
then what I also love about that scene is then there's another drunk in the ward who, after he's yelling, "Make me a sergeant in charge of the booze," this other guy in the bed next to him goes, "Please, my nerves."
My nerves. Classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Those are two
awesome.
Archetypes that I feel like have lasted the test of time.
Yeah, really. They should be in more movies. They should be like more serious movies. Just throw in a guy like that.
Just randomly. Imagine just in the middle of Schindler's List, someone goes, "My knives."
That and also a 1940s reporter with press on his hat. There should be more of those guys in groups that come up to you. Hey, what's the story here?
Yeah.
Or what about the guy like Plan 9 from Outer Space? The guy who sees something and then he's the drunk and he's got the bottle.
That's the classic.
He sees the flying saucer and he goes, "Never again." And
Well, there's in the 90s Gamera trilogy, there was this recurring character who's this drunk guy.
Yep.
And you see him in all three movies. And it's like he's slowly sort of rehabilitating or trying to rehabilitate himself.
Until Gamera shows up every time.
Until Gamera shows up.
I'm actually.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks. Because I was about to say, I'm so glad that James brought up Gamera, a large monster, because we've talked about, we're getting to the giant ants, but what if you had a booze that was so powerful for a big monster, literally put you to sleep because it loves it so much? And
I think you're going to Faroe Island, I believe.
Sean, I'm going there. I'm going there where there's a special species of red berry that is native to the island that a very large monster named King Kong just can't live without. But I would say that it's not just it's berry juice. It's more than berry juice. Yes. It's an alcoholic berry juice.
Yeah,
and King Kong, to calm King Kong down,
sleepy and
yes, and we're talking about the film
19
1962, King Kong versus Godzilla. I would say that yes, it's got some fermenting in there.
Yeah,
and
I'd
King
say
Kong
it has
drinks
properties of alcohol for sure.
Because what you're saying. No. And what you're saying is this giant ape just drinks a bunch of grape juice. Grape juice. Oh, I'm so tired, and falls down asleep. No, it's got it's got wine-like properties to it.
Yeah,
but it makes him go to
many
sleep.
Instances. Well, I mean, alcohol is obviously a depressant.
Yeah,
true.
So
drink a lot of wine, you can go be conked out. Sure.
It is alcohol in all forms is a depressant, but then also there are a lot of instances in nature of specific species that are known to consume fermented fruit and with the intention of, experiencing some sort of mind-altering experience.
Like what are some examples?
Whether it's accidentally or on purpose. But yeah, I was just reading an article not terribly long ago, and I'm going to try to remember it, and I'm going to do a terrible job. But I was reading about some sort of reindeer that consumes some sort of fermented berries or some sort of fruit in the spring.
Really?
And they get like the males of the species get like ornery, and it kind of, angers up the blood and promotes them to like fight.
Hey, Blitzen, watch me fly.
It gives them
Rudolph's like, I'm fine. I can fly tonight. I'm fine.
But if we learned anything from our beer expert tonight, it's that if it can happen to a reindeer, it can happen to a large gorilla.
He's agreeing with you.
I have that tattooed from shoulder to shoulder, guys. It says, if it can happen to a reindeer, it can happen to a giant gorilla.
There you go. Yeah,
I think that's in the Bible.
Yeah. But that's really interesting. Like other species can like seek it out or get kind of addicted to it or whatever. Like, wow, that's interesting. Okay.
It is kind of sad though. On that island, it's like King Kong, because he is, he's a thinking animal, as we've learned, right, Sean?
Yes,
his brain is quite
large. His brain is larger than Godzilla's.
Yeah, and so it's like he can hang out with the natives and drink his juice and go.
I wonder what happens.
But I wonder though.
But Godzilla's I'm lizard. I'm angry. I don't want anything to drink. So I feel that
Godzilla. Okay, but wait. Do the natives of Faroe Island themselves drink it, and does it have the same effect on them? Do they just because they make it? Do they make it exclusively for Kong, or do they?
It's really for Kong. It's really for Kong.
Because they must. Maybe it's like way too potent for humans.
Or it's one of those things where it's like the sheer quantity that we need to subdue Kong. We need to preserve everything we have for, a rainy day.
Have it at the ready.
Yeah. Can you imagine? It's like, looking at one of the natives. Hey, Native Joe, don't be drinking that. We need that for Kong.
Sorry. I'm going the opposite
like this
direction.
one guy keeps like drinking the juice. Like, we're saving that for Kong.
Native Joe.
I'm going to the opposite. Native Joe. Yeah, we all know.
Where are you going with that gun in your hand?
Native Joe.
I just am imagining Kong with like a little fez hat on, and like mixing him a little cocktail. Be like, calm down. Here's your cocktail.
Yeah,
it's like every Hammer movie. Talk about another drunk series of films. In every Hammer movie, someone's breaking out the sherry. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
Yeah, that's when I was kind of putting this list together. I was like, I'm trying to think of ones that are more modern, because every single movie between the years like 1930 and 1960 had 8 scenes of people drinking booze.
Well, like everybody has the portable bar like in their office or their living room. Like, I mean, literally, when a new character walks into your room, would you like a drink? Like, I mean, still
that was just a much bigger part of the culture then.
Yeah.
Well, and Sean, think about it. And also during that time, it was a common place to smoke. Smoking was that was a common thing that people did. So I would think, the booze and the cigarettes,
Yeah, the martinis when the husband comes home.
Sure,
it's like, I mean, that was just such a thing,
And they always poured them pretty heavy. Like, it was always 2-3 fingers.
Yeah. Yep, totally.
Yeah.
Well, sticking with the subject of simians, one of the lighter moments in Escape from the Planet of the Apes, where Zira and Cornelius are introduced to Grape Juice Plus.
That's right.
Yes, yeah.
Where they're not familiar with wine. I guess on Planet of the Apes, they never evolved to that point. But when they visit the future of 1973, they're introduced to the pleasures of wine. It's also like, to jump to another movie, another more classic film, but it's always sort of
more
fun
classic than Escape.
Yes.
Are you just going to brush over this?
Oh no!
When you introduce a monster to the pleasures of being inebriated, I'm going to Boris Karloff in The Bride of Frankenstein.
Sure.
Where the blind hermit pours him wine, and you've got this horrific monster, but he takes a couple of sips, and it's like, oh, dude, he's lightening up, he's smiling. Hey, wine,
red wine, smoke. Yeah, he's got. Yeah. I love it.
We joke, but that's a very touching moment in that.
Why do you keep pointing out when we joke?
I just want people to know it's not like, oh
no, they do know. They do know.
I don't.
We
know.
don't need you with the joke tracker.
Guys, get ready. Incoming joke. Here we go.
All right, everybody, strap yourselves in. It could be off color.
Go ahead, James.
But it's true though. But it's true though, because it's like, it's the one time where somebody's being nice to the monster, and like he's experiencing these kind of vices or these things that make you feel good, whether it's just eating good food or smoking it's like, wow, he's actually, for once, he's enjoying himself,
Yeah, and you can relate to him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can we not learn? We can't learn something from this moment. It's a very touching, serious moment.
Who knew the monster would be a happy drunk? Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and in fact, I think when the hermit actually lies the monster down, there's like tears in his eyes, because it's like, you're right. It's one of the first times that someone has been kind
to him and
gentle with him.
Hey, honestly, I just showed my youngest daughter this for the first time. Maybe it was around Halloween time. We watched Bride of Frankenstein, and during that moment when he is, the blind hermit is putting the monster to sleep, my youngest daughter, instinctually, without really even kind of paying attention to the movie, she started kind of tearing up during that part. It is a very it's a very emotionally charged moment. It's
great,
because he's such a sympathetic character, the monster, obviously.
Absolutely.
And he also is like the kind of drunk that I am. Because at first, like I get
to bed. Yeah.
Well, right. No, it's every stage of that was like, yay, woohoo, drink wine, and then I get like, you're my best friend.
I love you, man. I love you, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, I want to commend you, man. I did the same thing with my kid. Showing her the classics, and she learned to really appreciate it. It's not like I'm forcing her to watch it. It's like we watched it together, and she got so into it. And
that's cool.
And this is how kids learn. They check out these classics and they see how powerful these films are, and they're so great. I commend you for that, sir.
Yeah, it's become like a Saturday morning ritual for us.
Nice.
Yeah,
it's interesting because my daughter, she's going to be 17, and a lot of her friends, it's like, oh, a black and white movie, I don't want to watch that, and she doesn't care. It's like, I don't care if it's from the 30s, I don't care if it's black and white. My daughter's like so into it. So you're doing the right thing, sir.
My oldest woke me up a couple Saturdays ago at like 6 a.m. and came in and was like, "You said we could watch The Blob." Because she heard the song.
Great song.
She heard the song, and now that's like one of their favorite things. That's in the rotation with Encanto and all those. Is The Blob? So she was like, "What's this from?" I told her, and then we ended up watching The Blob at like 6 a.m. on a Saturday.
Oh, that's awesome!
Where are the blobs?
Yeah, next you got to do Green Slime.
Yeah, green slime.
Green slime.
Yeah, I think she would dig Robbie the Robot as well. So.
Oh, totally. Yeah. All right, I got one. This is not necessarily a great movie, but it has a pretty memorable moment with alcohol. I believe it's tequila, and this is 1986 Poltergeist 2: The Other Side.
Oh,
yeah.
Remember this?
Yes.
So there's like the crazy evil preacher Cain, who's kind of trying to come from the other dimension or whatever and possess little Heather or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a moment where somehow the spirit or whatever gets into this mezcal worm in a bottle of tequila that Craig T. Nelson drinks. So he drinks. So the worm it's an evil little possessed worm that he drinks from the bottle, and he starts kind of going crazy, starts attacking Jo Beth Williams. But she like gets him back to his senses. Like she says, "I love you," and so like he fights it, and he basically like vomits up this worm, which is like now has grown this giant thing and just kind of comes out. It's ridiculous and disgusting, but it's kind of one of the better moments in the movie, to be honest. I mean, I got to give it for original idea with that. How the spirit or the ghost gets into him was pretty unique.
That's the only moment I remember.
The only thing I remember is the preacher because he was pretty creepy. He was creepy. Door and all that.
Yeah, you're all gonna die.
Yeah,
what a wonderful series.
Didn't that feel like it should have been? For some reason, that worm sequence, every time I watched it, I thought this belongs in a Freddy. Doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
You're right. Like it should be like Freddy was the worm.
Was the worm? And he's or one of the teens are the worm, and he drinks them like the meatballs on the pizza.
And the pizza.
Something,
you're right.
They didn't, look, guys. With Poltergeist, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
I think by that point they probably had a bunch of writers just throwing ideas. Hey, why would you know the worms in those drinks? I'm sure it was like that. Let's run
Sean,
with it.
I bet you're right. I bet that's what it was. What do you think?
I would like to have an action figure of Craig T. Nelson bending over with a giant worm coming out of his mouth. That would be kind of cool.
That would vomit.
Yeah, exactly.
I just remember him being so sweaty too, and I just remember thinking, like, imagine just chugging a bottle of tequila when you're just hot and sweaty. I'm like, oh, that's a fate worse than death right there.
Yeah, pretty nasty.
All right, so I guess we've got really only two that I know of Red Dwarf fans in this bunch.
Oh, well, sure.
Brian, how about you?
Now, I mean, I'm familiar, but no.
But you don't really follow it. Okay.
No.
Matt, Gina, and I just literally watched the entire series.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
All of them.
Great. Yeah. So here you go. So, I mean, we've got a character named Dave Lister who drinking is like part of who he is.
Yes.
It's all about lager and curry, and he's the last man in the universe, and he is spending most of his time getting drunk on the spaceship and hanging out with the only friends he really can choose from. Right. And so one of them is an evolved cat. One of them is a holograph of his old crewmate. And then one of them is a mechanoid, an android, if you will.
Right.
And there is an episode, Crichton, thank you. And there is an episode where Crichton learns that he is being replaced by a new model. And this episode is called The Last Day. It's part of season 3. And
one of the best seasons.
It's one of the best seasons, yes. And so he is waiting for this replacement to come. And what they find out is that when the replacement comes, he will be deactivated. So he will really die. And everyone's sad about this, and they're going to throw him a last day party. They want to, just make this complete, rager. So they make this malfunctioning Marilyn Monroe robot. And they create a mechanoid booze that's great.
He can actually get drunk on.
Yeah, and it's all these like horrible, chemicals and everything that would be deadly to humans. But he drinks this stuff, and there's this wonderful kind of funny effect where he goes, he kind of like repeats what he's saying.
Yeah, like stutters
right. And he gets wasted on this stuff. And I love the fact that on Red Dwarf, they created android alcohol.
Yeah, that's kind of a clever idea.
Yeah, and then that's a really fun episode because everybody gets wasted in this episode. They wake up the next day, and Lister says, how after 3 million years on a mining ship in deep space, how does he suddenly have a traffic cone in his bed? And then the cat is like, well, I know that sounds weird, but how did I get a policewoman's helmet and suspenders? That's a great show.
That's a great series of items too. You know what I mean?
To be stuck and find yourself.
There's nothing. Honestly, traffic cone underrated. I mean, that should be right up there with the rubber chicken. I mean,
really.
Well, if anyone knows Alan Partridge, you'll know that there's a very
great traffic cone
sequence.
Yep, totally.
Okay, well, what if we go from the future world to the animation world? Because there was a very classic Disney animated film which has a very big scene with alcohol, and I'm talking about from 1941, Dumbo. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but one of the scariest sequence, just to set it up here, it's like, Dumbo, the little elephant has the big ears, and they're kind of poke fun of him, and they put him in this show, and the clowns will laugh. They go, "Oh, this is working. This is working. This is going to work out so well for us." And they're drinking a bunch of champagne, and it spills into Dumbo's little vat, and he drinks it with Timothy Mouse, and all of a sudden there's this big moment where the pink elephants show up. The pink elephants on parade, and it's all black, and all these pink elephants are coming around, and so let's face it, Dumbo is intoxicated, messed up, and it's a little elephant.
More than intoxicated. I was always curious.
No, but Brian, here's the thing that gets me, that I don't think Disney really figured it out. They go, "Oh, it'll be cute, elephant gets drunk," but you see, here's what happens. So Dumbo gets so wasted. The next thing you realize, when you go through this nightmarish thing with all these pink elephants and heads popping off bodies and stuff, Dumbo wakes up and he's up in a tree. Well, how the hell did you get in a tree? Well, he must have flown up there. Does that imply that, hey, I drank so much that I could fly? And that's the thing that bugs me about it.
I think the thing that bugs me about it is it's a full-on horror show fever dream. It's like, I've drank a lot of beer, and I've drank certainly a lot of various spirits and things like that in my day. I have never, from alcohol, just tripped balls, which is what it appears that Dumbo does during this period. Yeah.
Well, I will say this: Dumbo is not my favorite Disney movie. Yeah. However, that scene is fucking genius. That whole sequence is maybe one of the greatest animated pieces ever made. It's so good.
Yeah,
and I have just that sequence on 16 millimeter. Like,
no, I didn't know
it kind of sticks out. It kind of stands out separately from the rest of the movie. It really does. Yeah. It's almost like it was done by different animators or something.
No. It's done by the same animators.
I know. it just feels like it's different.
The animators, you're trying to tell this heartwarming story and stuff, and then they bring up, so then there's this nightmare that Dumbo has, and they're all, "Oh, fuck, this is great. And that's what they really wanted to do.
Right, let's keep building. Let's keep going.
And it's like all that stuff of the elephants' heads popping up and all that, the bounce, the beautiful motion that they have, and just the design of it with the pink lines and stuff. It's amazing. It's so fantastic. But it's like people lose out on that. They forget that, Dumbo is basically intoxicated.
Yeah.
And
that's a great choice.
I just want to say to listeners, so we are not implying that you go out and get so intoxicated.
Will you
don't get your elephant drunk? That's what we're saying.
Well, for all those if there are any elephants out there, flying elephants listening, please.
I mean,
elephant caretakers, please don't get your elephants.
If you're just tuning in, we just want to make sure that everyone is responsible. It's just that
don't fly.
Don't
not
use your giant mutant ears to fly if you are intoxicated.
No. Right. Find another flying elephant to fly you home.
Yeah. Is it? And this might be a leap, but I haven't seen this movie in a while. But I do remember there's a sequence, Larry, you might be able to clarify, where he is when he's intoxicated. There's a bunch of burping of bubbles or something like that.
Yes.
Am I remembering that correctly? I wonder if that is the sequence that inspired that weird trope in cartoons of when characters are drunk, they burp bubbles. Do you know what I mean?
True, because why would it be bubbles? Like I can see champagne maybe.
Yeah.
But see, that's what is poured into Dumbo's vat is champagne.
Oh,
that's the thing.
Oh, okay.
It's not wine. Sense. It's not whiskey. Okay. It's not bourbon. It's champagne. So,
I see.
And
I just remember in the Speedy Gonzales cartoons, they would be like bourbon,
Well, let's face it, champagne, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Brian. I mean, champagne, that's a celebratory drink. When you do toast, what do people normally do? Do we hold up our glass of bourbon? No, we do a glass of champagne. That's what we do.
Sure.
But you can turn it around if you want. I've brought that bottle of champagne into my lonely room. Gone into the basement with some Corbel and just cried.
You know what you need? You need to listen to 15 minutes of applause. I'll tell you, it does wonders for you.
Okay. All right. I'll give it a try. Speaking of Disney, isn't there in Pinocchio when they go to the bad town or whatever?
Yeah. The island.
They drink
the
there.
Island.
The island. Yeah. Thank you. They drink there, don't they?
Their beer.
They're drinking beer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beer, Brian.
Kids drinking beer.
I know. Low rent bunch of
and
degenerate bastards drinking.
Right.
Kegger.
I always saw Matt as Lampwick. He's there with yeah.
No, as a child, I used to affect Edward G. Robinson voice.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is think about it. Late 30s, early 40s, Pinocchio, right?
That's 1940.
Yeah. So
it came out in 1940.
At that, that is not terribly far removed from Prohibition.
That's true.
Right.
So it ended. Volstead Act was 1933. So it's not terribly far from that. So yeah, beer probably would have been considered like, I wouldn't say a low rent, but it was definitely working class booze. You know what I mean?
Right.
As opposed to wine or champagne.
Look,
or something.
Pinocchio and Lampwick, they are kids. It's not like Lampwick is like 17 or 18.
Yeah, true.
That's kind of daring.
Yeah.
It's surprising that hasn't been canceled yet.
Was it Pinocchio from Germany? Aren't they from? Where are they from? I don't know. Forgive me. I don't know. Are they German?
Italy.
That's right. Yeah. Well, then they're.
Right.
I think legal drinking age is 6 in Italy.
That's right. Yeah. Yes.
Well, still. There's more to it. It's the smoking and the drinking and the fighting.
I do remember the smoking more than anything, really.
Yeah.
Those big cigars.
Yeah, the big cartoonish cigars. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm also reminded of 2 instances where monsters are actually created by tainted booze. One of them is from a horrible 1989 Alien ripoff that we've touched on before called Leviathan.
Yeah, I like that movie actually.
It's got a
derivative, but it's
really
fun.
Good cast. It's fun.
It's an undersea thing, right?
It's an undersea thing.
It's Alien underwater. Peter Weller,
exactly. Peter Weller,
Amanda Pays,
Richard Crenna. It's actually got a great cast. Daniel Stern is underwater, and he comes up with a safe that he pulls out of a Russian ship that was shot down by the Russians themselves.
Yeah, it's like a derelict ship underwater that they find. Right.
And he pulls out a safe that's got a flask in it, and he steals the flask and shares it with Lisa Eilbacher, I think from Star Trek 4, and then they mutate into what turns into this tentacled alien beast.
Yeah, all because of booze.
All because of booze.
Demon booze.
Another instance is another Stephen King story called Gray Matter, which was in Night Shift and adapted as the pilot for the Creepshow series on Shudder.
Yeah,
that Greg Nicotero directed.
So great,
and it's about a man who he's a shut-in. He never goes out. He's addicted to the cheapest beer he can get, and one batch of this beer is contaminated and turns him into the Blob. And it's a short story, but the fear toward the end of the episode is, well, he splits himself in 2. So in theory, if he keeps splitting himself, then will he multiply and take over the earth?
Yep.
So that is all from contaminated beer. Gray Matter.
And I remember isn't there like I'm trying to remember who's in it because there was a couple of notable people, but I do remember them he sends the son to the store to get the beer.
Yeah. Adrian Barbeau's in it, I think.
It's Adrian Barbeau. I was going to say, I knew there was a big name there.
Tobin Bell and Giancarlo Esposito are in it.
Yeah. There's a great cast, but then she's she is suspecting that the
father is like being abusive towards the son.
Right.
But it turns out that the son is just basically enabling his giant crazy mutant father kind of
Right.
thing.
And feeding him dead animals and
Yeah.
It's a good one.
So there you go.
Wow. These have been so great. I feel like we could go on and on and on.
Yes.
Very much so.
We could go on.
Yeah, we could.
I could go on. Could you go on? I could
We
here's
could
the-
do a booze horror movie crawl.
We could.
Right, let's do it.
So to make sure I don't pass out, what do you guys say we do a little lightning round here?
You mean a last call?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. How about a last call?
Closing time, boys and girls.
That's right.
You want to throw out a few here? Just a couple.
Yeah,
Brian, get us going.
Yeah. You know, I would be remiss if I did not bring up during this episode perhaps my favorite all-time genre film, tough guy / booze hound.
Oh yes.
And Pittsburgh native one Mr. Thomas Atkins.
I think he's smoking and drinking in every role he's ever been in.
He's never, So, I mean, think about his storied roles as drunk doctor in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, to drunk detective in Night of the Creep,
right?
To drunk, I don't know, weirdo who picks up way younger girls in The Fog. But he is always
abusive father in Creepshow.
Yes,
is he drinking in that?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember if he drinks in that, but yeah, that was.
I think he's got a beer in there. Yeah,
when he's sitting there and says that's why God made fathers, he's hoisting the beer.
He's like, it's like when you're reading that stuff, people turn into weeds and shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, from slugging whiskey to drinking Miller High Lifes, he is definitely, his character is always that hard-boiled gruff,
he's perfect
booze hound type of guy. And we made a joke on our show at one time that he was so hungover for The Fog that his mustache didn't show up to set the next day.
Nice.
Nice one. Sean, you want to throw us a couple?
Well, I'll throw some other great kind of boozers or drunks in horror and sci-fi. Speaking of Creepshow, the classic Father's Day episode, Vivica Linfors as Aunt Bedelia, when she's sitting there, just chewing out her dead father at his grave while drinking Jim Beam, and then of course his corpse pops up and gets her.
We've all been there.
There's a great yes, right. In the great Bob Clark horror film Black Christmas. Sorority girls. You got Olivia Hussey and Margot Kidder, but their head mistress or whatever, the woman who runs the sorority house.
Yeah, the house
Mrs.
mother.
Mack. Yeah, Mrs. Mack. She's a total drunk and she has bottles hidden everywhere. She has a Bible. She opens up and it's cut out where there's a bottle in there. And in the back of the toilet, they keep the filter. She opens that. There's a bottle in there on a string.
I love that.
That one's a great one. Yeah. Heather Langenkamp's mom, Ronnie Blakely, in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Marge. Yeah. She's a total drunk mom. Of course, Betty Davis and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Right.
Great boozer. So there's a couple. And of course, you got to mention also the Winchester Arms as a great watering hole in Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Oh,
and like every Edgar Wright movie almost.
Pretty much.
There's also.
And finally, I have to mention, as we all know, literally the greatest drink ever made in the universe, which is the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster.
That's right.
Created by Zaphod Beeblebrox in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's the greatest drink ever.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice one, Sean. Well, I was just going to throw out a couple. One, I mean, we forget that in 1981, Raiders of the Lost Ark, you have Marion Ravenwood, and she is, this poor woman lives in Nepal. When we're introduced to her, she's having a freaking drinking contest with the locals, and she can put these guys to sleep. Now, and Sean, I will say to you that she runs the bar. She drinks a lot. I believe that she's an alcoholic. I mean, and then later in the film, when she gets captured and she's with Belloc, Yeah, they have a drinking contest. She's kind of laughing, like, downing the booze that he's giving her, and he's saying, "Oh, this is my family label. I grew up with this," but it didn't affect her at all.
Yeah.
So we
stuff,
forget,
man.
She's got hair in her chest, man. I tell you,
she puts the fun in functional.
Yeah. Yes, she does. But
man,
I beg to differ with Sean. I think probably one of the most famous drinks was actually from a super spy, and that is the Vesper from James Bond. All these films, especially from Casino Royale, which is it's the martini shaken not stirred, but more specifically, it's in a champagne goblet, 3 measures of Gordon's, 1 of vodka, half a measure of Kina Litet, and then shaken well until it's ice cold, and add a large thin slice of lemon peel. But of course, James Gonis may disagree with me, but I mean, James Bond is so famous with that special drink, shaken not stirred. We all know that.
Sure.
So,
it's funny, as much as James Bond is connected to alcohol, you never really see him drunk. He can handle it. He can handle it.
Yeah, it's true.
But he knows he can have 1 or 2, and he knows not to go crazy.
I don't know if that's the case.
No, he's a super spy.
I just think he's got a tough constitution.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we have to bring up the 1982 classic science fiction film, The Thing, directed by John Carpenter.
Oh, on my list. Of course.
That entire cast, those characters, everybody drinks, but especially R.J. McCready, who not only drinks, but tries to get his computer drunk by tossing a cocktail in it.
Yeah. But the key moment towards the end of the film.
Passing
the bottle back and forth. Yeah.
Pivotal moment that involves booze.
Yes. Great.
And if you lived out there, wouldn't you be drinking?
Of course.
You're sure. When you have literally nothing else to do. I mean, what are you going to play? You're going to play chess against the computer? What else?
Well, right.
Yeah.
Doesn't the McCready action figure come with a
has a bottle of J&D scotch. Right. It is on my shelf in my office at home.
Nice.
So good. Did we ever think we were going to live in a time where they would make that toy?
I know.
So good. There's also a film that I'm sure Sean knows, and I have a feeling, Brian, you might know it as well, but it's a Jean Rollin film called The Grapes of Death.
Oh, yes.
1978.
I don't.
You told me about that one, Matt. You got me onto that one.
Yeah.
I don't know this.
This is a zombie film where a dangerous pesticide infects the wine that they're making and turns people into zombies.
Oh, man. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So it's like, what's the wine film? Was it Sideways? Or
that's when you said that. I was like, is this Sideways with zombies?
Horror Sideways.
Oh, wow. I'm sold.
Yeah. And then, of course, there is a classic cocktail that was in The Simpsons that was created by a friend of the show, Rob Cohen, called the Flaming Moe.
Of course.
Rob Cohen created the Flaming Moe.
Wow.
My God.
We got to also throw out there Mutter's Milk from Firefly.
Sure. Yeah.
There's also a not too well-known segment of Night Gallery that involves Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And it's called With Apologies to Mr. Hyde.
Oh, yeah. It's like one of the little short ones,
It's one of the short comedy bits.
Is that Adam West?
It's Adam West as Dr. Jekyll.
Wow.
He is handed a beaker by his lab assistant, played by series producer and writer Jack Lard.
Right.
Never drink anything out of a beaker, guys.
No, of course not. Which we could get into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's for a whole nother episode. About
I can't believe I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So he drinks this and he begins to transform into Mr. Hyde. And he's, contorting and he grunting and he looks in the mirror and he says to his assistant, "If I've told you once, I've told you 100 times. Go easy on the vermouth." And then we all wait for the laughter to die down. Get on with our day. Yeah. So those are mine. Like I said, we could do a whole nother episode, but I'm sure James will come in here and fill in the gaps that we've left behind.
Yes.
From the comics, you got Wolverine, who always seems to have a drink in his hand, but ironically cannot get drunk, I don't think, because he's got an immunity to any toxins in his body.
That's right.
But Tony Stark.
Tony Stark, right? Oh,
sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's got a history of wrestling with alcoholism. And in the films, I do like how they don't shy away from that. He's a social drinker. They don't make a thing out of it, but he's got cocktail in his hand often. Quint, of course, in Jaws.
That was on my list.
That great scene, yeah.
The
Narragansett
Lager.
Big Shark.
Right.
Yes, the shark film, yes.
That's a shark. That's a shark one, right?
I think, you know what? Wait a minute. Let me look it up. I have to Google this. Hold on.
Google. www. Is this a shark movie?
Yes, you're right. It turns out it is about a shark. I gotta see this someday.
You got Romero's classic Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. Finally, in Day of the Dead, you got a character doing what I would have done the whole time, which is to get stinking drunk.
Yeah, the helicopter pilot, right?
Yeah,
that's true.
The Irish guy. Like, if it was me in any of those situations, the only way I could survive is by being blotto all the time. There's no fucking way.
Really?
Oh,
really?
Yes.
I'd be on heroin. I would be taking shit that someone just created, on the spot.
That means you'd be like a walking meal, man. You
already are, though. I mean, when things are that bleak,
go out with a smile.
Might as well go huff the asbestos off the walls, just like
right.
And then finally, from 1983, Bob and Doug McKenzie, Strange Brew.
Oh yeah,
I love that movie.
Spinoff. It's got elements from Hamlet that they throw in.
Oh my god! One of Max von Sydow's greatest roles, as far as I'm concerned.
They got hired by
He's hilarious.
Von Sydow as an evil beer manufacturer.
That's right.
With a nefarious plot to mind control the population and have them kill each other.
But also, don't forget, create a mind-controlled hockey team just to play against each other in the warehouse.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have bought no less than a dozen copies of that on DVD just to gift people. I need you to understand this movie.
That movie kind of gets better with age too.
It really does.
It really is
so fun.
All right,
great way to take us out. I like it.
Yeah.
This has been fun, and this again is something that we need to do again because
Brian, you're fantastic.
We've just scratched the surface, and you are the perfect guest for this. And if we do this again, we absolutely got to get you back.
Please, dream come true for me. I'm no hyperbole there. You guys are one of my all-time favorite podcasts, and I listen to you.
Oh, man,
I've listened to almost every episode, so to be on here it's been so so much fun.
Well, thank you for reaching out.
I'm approaching 2 a.m, and I think I probably won't be sleeping till about 4. So
wow.
All right.
Well, thanks for putting aside the time, man. Because
Brian, thank you so much.
We're honored with your presence.
Can you tell us for our listeners, if about they want to check out, what is your podcast?
Yeah. We have a show called Halloween is Forever. If you go on any of the, podcast apps and search Halloween is Forever, you'll find us. We do a show every single week. We do
every week. Wow.
Every single week. Yeah. My friends, Meg and Steve, Meg is super into the heavy metal scene.
Nice.
Steve is a trained filmmaker, went to film school, all that stuff, and has made films. And then I'm just the jackass who says dumb stuff. And then
the beer guy.
Yeah, that's pretty much. We do one episode every month where we actually pick a topic and let our listeners choose the topic. And then we pick a film that pertains to that topic. And then we argue about it, scream at each other, blah, blah, blah. Vote. Ultimately, somebody takes home the championship belt for the month. And then whoever wins that month, the very next episode, they get to pick a punishment movie to make the other two watch and discuss, which is a lot of fun. So nice. check it out. It's a lot of fun. And again, thank you guys. This was a freaking blast.
Our pleasure.
Thank
really. You were a joy.
Thank you. This is fun.
Well, guys, what do you say we raise our glass and we give a toast?
Yes.
To booze.
Booze, to booze, toast booze.
And to our wonderful guest, Brian Reed, Mr. Beer.
Hey, thank you guys. Cheers. Prost.
Cheers. Time for a listener shout out.
Shout out.
Boozy shout out.
Hey, wait a minute. Shut up. Let me shout out. Woo!
We have a very brief review that comes to us from Cat Food Breath.
Nice.
The title of this review is Religious.
Oh, nice. Okay. Sure.
Obsessed. If you don't devour this podcast, you need God. Well,
that should
thank
be our
you.
tagline for our show.
Thank you, Cat Food Breath.
Oh, that's so
This is a
good.
review
Short
we
and
will
sweet.
certainly remember.
Right. Nice.
Oh, I love you, Cat Food Breath.
With a K.
With a cat.
Oh,
all right.
With a
that's
K.
awesome.
That's a cool way to spell it.
Thanks, James. That was awesome. That was really funny. But I just want to change of pace here a little bit, guys. I want to point out something. The art world lost someone very spectacular not so long ago. It was back in April. We lost James Bommer. He was the artist responsible for the majority of the Aurora Monster Model Kit covers, on the packaging, that great Frankenstein and Dracula.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't do every box cover, but he did the majority of them. I mean, and we grew up with these. That
Oh my God!
Frankenstein.
You'd stare at those boxes for hours and hours.
Oh, Sean, yeah. And I mean, those boxes were so magical to me.
Yeah.
And then to see the glow in the dark ones, but he did a bunch of others too, and his style is very distinct. And he lived to be 95 years old. He was doing art all the way to the end, and so he will be missed. But he left behind a lot of great, beautiful monster artwork. So I just wanted to give a little toast to James Bommer's.
Yeah,
we're gonna miss you,
Bommer.
sir. Thank you so much for all the wonderful work,
Rest
sir.
in peace.
It's funny because I've seen some kits that are tributes to his artwork where they've done like an Aurora model kit, but really taken from the box art. And,
like fantasy box art. Yeah,
because people always said like when you open the model, maybe the model was a little different than what was on the box.
Right.
And
right.
Matt's right. They did that with the creature and King Kong, and so they're basically making a model based on his art. So that is pretty amazing.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool.
And hey, we want to let our listeners know that we will be attending the next Monsterpalooza in Pasadena, at the Pasadena Convention Center.
Indeed, we will.
June 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We're going to be in the Phantom Room with our own booth. We're going to be interviewing friends and guests and passersby and cosplayers.
Yeah.
So please stop by, find us, and chat with us. Would love to see you and meet with you and chat with you.
Yeah, and we'll be there all 3 days, and we'll have special merchandise. So
some
you
surprises.
have to attend. Yeah.
Yes.
And speaking of merchandise, Monster Party merch is still available on our eBay store, which is Monster Party Store. We have the classic Monster Party glow-in-the-dark logo T-shirt available in large.
I like to call it classic large.
Vintage large.
Yeah. It's the large you're looking for.
And the Monster Party cloth PPE face mask.
Oh, those are handy. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Wear the mask and wear the shirt and go out drinking, with your buddies.
No, it's a good vomit catcher. It really is.
And it'll mask the bourbon breath.
True.
Right.
True.
Sure.
And if you happen to be a Patreon member and order from our eBay store, we will throw in free goodies, courtesy of Jason Lindsay of Biff Bang Pow Toys and Ted Haynes, creature creator extraordinaire, friends of the show.
That's right.
Those two guys are saints.
Really?
Yes, they really are.
They really are. So nice of them to do that.
Did you see what Ted Haynes is going to have at Monsterpalooza?
No, what?
Oh my! He and Tom Woodruff, they're going to have something in the museum.
Oh, cool!
It's a 6'5" life-size Frankenstein monster model from Aurora.
Fantastic.
And they're gonna have a giant stick of glue and giant tester paint thing.
Oh, that's really clever.
So Matt, what's all this about Patreon anyway?
Well, Patreon is a platform that if you sign up, you will have access to extra bonus material from Monster Party. And this material could come in the form of audio episodes, special shows that we have produced, like Larry's Toy Time and Monster Party Masterpieces. And yes. And you can also see something that James has been putting his heart and soul in, which is this footage, this wonderful, forgotten and rediscovered footage from our trip to Japan, where you're with us, you're walking the streets of Japan, getting in the trouble that we're getting into, drinking drinks that we're drinking, buying all the stuff that we're buying.
Toy store after toy store after toy store.
Sake after sake.
Oh man, it's like the nerd version of Brainstorm.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds amazing, Matt, but all this material sounds like it's going to be kind of expensive.
You are so wrong.
Really?
It's only $5.
What? Wait a minute. You can't get a bottle of TENAFLY VIPER for that price.
No. I think these days they're giving it away for free.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great deal. It really is. And so $5 is what you pay. And to join, all you have to do is go to patreon.com, go to Monster Party, click join, follow the instructions. And man, it's like drinking that TENAFLY VIPER and just melting away into happiness.
Wow. Well, if it's that easy, shit, I'll do it.
Do it.
And hey, let's remind our listeners that you can find us on social media, on YouTube at Monster Party TV, Facebook, also Monster Party TV, Twitter at Monster Party HQ, and Instagram, also Monster Party HQ. And please, whatever platform you're listening to us on, find a way to let us know your thoughts in a review, just like our friend Cat Food Breath did. We would love to hear your thoughts, no matter how brief or how long they are, and we will read them on the air.
And hey, listen, not only will we read them on the air, but we'll love you, man.
Oh, I love you, man.
We'll love you.
We love you.
We love you, right? Right,
love
guys?
You, man. I love you, man.
We love you.
Huggies.
On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm SHAWN Sheridan.
I am Larry STROTHE.
And I'm James GONIS.
Keep America strong.
Watch horror and sci-fi movies with booze.
Booze. Good. Good. But please, drink responsibly. Hey, Brian Reed.
Hey, good evening.
Brian Reed.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. This is very bizarre because I was just listening to all of your voices on the drive to Philadelphia only a couple hours ago.
I am so sorry. so sorry.
And you were saying what a charming group of gentlemen these guys are.
That's exactly. I just repeated that to myself for the entire 5 hours.
Lovable blowhards is what we like to call.
No, there's no blowhards, but just lovable guys
Larry.
who just know all about
stop lying to
science
yourself.
fiction, fantasy.
Really?
What did you
look up blowhard, okay?
No. Anyone who loves to listen to 14 minutes worth of applause.
Oh,
yes.
I thought you were referring to yourself. Okay.
No, I listen to that applause and I love it.
Oh, here we go. Okay. SHAWN Sheridan has joined us.
Hey, Brian.
We've got James.
Hey, Sean.
We've got Larry. We've got
Brian.
me.
Hey,
Brian, of course, our lovely and talented guest.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Great to have you, man.
Yeah, thank you for this.
Yeah.
I like I said, I've been a long time listener. Thought I'd shoot a note over and just say like, hey, just what the heck? Shoot my shot. And I was excited to see you guys.
Whoa. You're not just going to shoot your shot. I mean,
okay. Settle down.
Come on. This is
sailor.
High expectations here.
Yeah. No. I mean, inquiring about being on the show.
Yes.
Surely you have notes. Do you have notes?
Larry, stop.
Just calm down, dude.
What he said was he was taking a shot at us putting him on the show.
Oh,
see what happens when the ears open?
Listen,
and the applause are muted.
Listen, this is a dream come true. I'm getting a full-fledged Larry rant.
You're getting the full
2 minutes.
For no reason whatsoever.
I love
those
it.
are the best kind.
I mean,
you're getting the entire dysfunctional aspect of Lunch Spray right off the bat.
It's a dream come true.
All right. Well,
also, it's especially flattering, Brian, since you have your own podcast that you actually listen to our podcast, and that you took that initiative. We really appreciate
you guys
that.
are one of the reasons why we started it. Yeah.
No way.
We're all big fans.
Shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
You like them apples?
Yeah.
You listened to the show and you thought these guys go through a lot of research and they know their stuff. It's going to take us a while, but we'll take a crack at a podcast.
I'm thinking clowns can do
these
it,
clowns, right there you go. Yeah, that's what it was.
Exactly.
It was like, wow.
No.
If this much mental illness can form
is on display
podcast.
Right.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
No, we're very
also,
passionate.
Brian, you're on Eastern time. Thank you for staying up. This is
yes,
going to be late for you. We're going to try not to make it too late.
No, I'm fine. I'm dealing with a little bit of a head cold, so I'm wired on Sudafed and ready to rock till the wee hours of the morning. I'm actually in an Airbnb in Philadelphia, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
No way.
Now, so I have nothing else to do besides drink beer and stare at my
You're drinking. Good.
All
okay.
Right. Well, we're talking about
I got my Stone Ruination.
that's a good one.
Yep.
That's a good one.
He's drinking beer. Beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And
yes. A common practice.
I want to hear about
humans.
this. I want to hear about. I really fascinated by this title that you have too.
Oh,
I get into this because I don't really know much about this actually.
I can spout on about the horrors of preparing for the miserable exam and however deep you guys want to go on it.
Cool.
Well,
cool.
Yeah, Brian, thanks. We do want to go into that, but you've listened to the show before, right?
Oh yeah,
many times.
Yeah, I've listened to probably I want to say every episode, but pretty darn close.
Wow.
Great. Nice. So thank you. I really appreciate it. So as you know, what we're going to do is like when Matt is going to start off the show, he uses a little creepy voice.
Right.
We introduce ourselves. We say what the topic is, and then we're going to introduce the guest. So just kind of hang tight until we introduce the guest, and then we'll go.
Yep.
And James, are you doing the intro?
Me?
Yes.
I thought you were doing it. No, I'm doing it.
Hey!
Jokes.
Woohoo! Oh, who knows what's going to happen tonight?
James is going to give you a real bang up with lots of energy. A nice intro, and then once he says who you are, then we'll go to town, and we'll probably start out by, tell about the podcast and that kind of stuff before we get into it. Okay.
Yeah.
And
beautiful.
So we are calling this like we did with our drugs episode.
Yep.
I think it's appropriate that we call this one booze.
Yeah.
Exclamation point.
Yeah.
Triple.
That's what gave me the inspiration to reach out was the drugs episode.
Right.
Nice.
Go.
And so, Brian, there's
uppers and downers.
There you go. Right, that's correct.
There's a lot of booze in the whole genre world, science fiction, fantasy, and horror.
I'll say.
Yep.
So, we'll go for at least about almost 90 minutes, and we may have to. I don't know. We may have to come back for another time. We may not be able to talk about everything. But I want to make sure that when we get to the end, it was we could go on for whatever. But if there was anything that you wanted our listeners to learn, like where they can hear the podcast or anything else that you wanted to plug. So you kind of get something at the beginning and then something at the end. Okay.
Yes.
Sound good?
Yeah, that works.
And I want to make sure that we always like to record this little bit of banter. before the show, and then we put it at the end, as you've heard. Our little extras. You're cool with that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Just want to make sure.
I've already well prepared that anything I say here will end up on the end of the show.
unless you don't want it. That's very clear.
No. Example. No. So let's say you say something like, when that beer big guy came in, he's such a jerk, and I shouldn't say that.
Big guy
came in.
I'm picturing sort of like the beer version of the Kool-Aid guy.
Yeah, well, let's say you said, that's Spuds McKenzie. That's Spuds McKenzie when he came in, boy, he was. I'm just saying that. I'm just trying to give an example. If he doesn't want to badmouth Spuds McKenzie,
has been all over Spuds McKenzie.
Well, okay, but listen, Spuds McKenzie had made and broken a lot of careers.
That's true. Yeah, but no one should have that much power.
Yeah.
See, no, and this is all very funny, but it's a serious point, Brian.
Well, you don't mind if we have a little funny here, Barry? I think he gets it.
Every once in a while.
He gets it. I'm just trying to say.
I think you've hit it with the hammer.
I have not. If you shut your trap for a moment, just a split moment.
Shut my trap.
Yeah.
Wow.
Brian.
That's
so
the trap.
If you realize
Skank from Brian Stiller show, Skank.
See, it just goes on and on.
Shut your trap.
But
all right,
but Brian,
tell him what you want to tell him.
Just because the sooner you let me finish, the sooner we can get to the
Say it.
So if you feel like you ratted on Spuds or you said something bad about Spuds, you go, oh shoot, I don't want to say that.
Sure.
And then we'll go, okay, man, because we're not taping this lot.
In other words, we'll edit the show if there's anything that we don't want in it. That's all you have to say.
Yeah,
go.
That's it.
Gotcha.
And Brian, it's Cicerone.
Cicerone. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cicerone. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
All right. And before we get started, I need to do a little adjustment on my air conditioning because I think I might be having a stroke. Okay.
So a wine equivalent of a Cicerone is
sommelier.
Sommelier. Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard the sommelier. I've not heard of the Cicerone before.
Yeah. It's a much newer program. It's only been around for, not quite 15 years now. So relatively new, but it's not terrifically dissimilar to a sommelier. There's like different, levels that you achieve. You can take a series of, horrific tests and, they just put you through the ringer and make your life miserable. And the Master Cicerone is so there's, I think at this point, 100.
Well, actually, hold off. We'll get.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was just curious, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We're getting, I'm approaching midnight and I've been drinking beer to keep me awake. So
nice.
turns out not the greatest strategy perhaps, but.
And so Brian, just another thing. Yes, we'll try to keep you awake. And if we mention something like if you mention a movie or a TV show or whatever it is, don't just say the title and move on. It's kind of like say the title, recall just like little synopsis or that sequence or whatever it is.
Brief. Yeah. What kind of? Yeah.
Imagine, Brian, that not everyone who listens to their show is as familiar with a lot of the stuff that we may talk about. So like if you just say, and that Jaws, and then you just move on from Jaws, well, we should say, Jaws, the film about the shark, the shark that attacks the village.
Are you explaining Jaws again?
I
don't know if
I'm unfamiliar.
There's a shark.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun. They have a little fun with the title. Because you know how Jaws
And I have IMDb up, so if there's something we can't think of,
you want to look up Jaws.
Yeah, look up Jaws.
Yes, and if you go, and then that film, oh shoot, what was it?
Jaws.
We'll stop. Sean will look up Jaws.
Yeah.
And then just say what it is. So then we can go back and go, oh yeah. So Jaws, that film about the shark.
www.whatisjaws.com.
What is Jaws?
Right? We get all of our information.
Hey Bing, what is Jaws?
Excuse me, Jeeves. Tell me what Jaws is.
Oh, nice.
Or would you say, Alexa, what is Jaws?
Alexa might be able to tell you.
But she might not say the movie.
She'll probably put Jaws in your cart is what'll happen.
That's next thing you know, you'll buy my fourth copy. Yeah.
Right. You've got it on 4K.
And James, wasn't Jaws
permission?
Jaws was not the original title, wasn't it?
No,
was it teeth?
No, I don't know. I was just.
I think it was called
Shark. Anyway, let's start the show. I'm Matt Weinhold. Get it out. Okay, Sean.
Okay. Are you ready, Larry? Take a sedative. All right. Here I go. I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I have an off-color toast.
Go.
Well, I
For
never.
the end, you mean?
As long as it's not racist or something involving
can
race.
we not do anything racist, please?
It's sexist. It's sexist. It's not PC. I never belonged to a frat when I was at NYU.
Oh,
but
okay.
After college, I went to a Greek party island where there was a big frat mentality, and I was doing tequila shots with these kids from all over the world. And I remember there was this toast that was really memorable, and I wrote it down. When God made man, he made him out of string. He had a little left, so he left a little thing. When God made woman, he made her out of lace. He didn't have enough, so he left a little space. Here's the space, the final frontier. See, it's off color and it's not PC and it's sexist.
You can write your letters to James Gonis, Sheriff Monster Party.
Funny the things you remember.
Wow. Yeah. That's almost like, considering it came from a frat, it's kind of tame.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
But it's today it's just so wrong.
No, it's horrible.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Did you have a good time, Brian?
I had an absolute blast. Like I said, getting the intro. I had goosebumps during Matt's intro, and then I got a Larry got yelled at by Larry right off the bat. I mean, come on, this is like a dream come true for me.
Now you can die a happy man.
I really was.
Larry does a lot of work for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, where he'll go to hospitals and yell at them. And
you want what? Do you know how hard that is?
You took that teddy bear out of the package?
Oh man!
Star Wars is your favorite film. Leave it in the package. What kind of kid are you? An idiot? What? God,
we have
are
to make
you
that
sick
film
as well as stupid?
And Brian,
I wouldn't be like that.
Of course,
to Make-A-Wish. I'm a lovely.
Yes, he is.